I'm going to go ahead and call us to order and declare that we have a quorum of 7 members present. We have 6 here personally, and Mrs. Green is attending via teleconference, so when that box over there talks, you'll know who it is. Okay, welcome to this meeting of the College Station Independent School Board of Trustees. We were elected at large to represent the interest of our community and our state in educating our students. Our mission for our students in this district is success each life, each day, each hour. We adhere to all pertinent laws, policies, and procedures in posting agendas and conducting our meetings. The detailed agenda information was made available to us at least 72 hours in advance, and we have all come to this meeting informed and prepared. We have just completed a workshop meeting where we heard reports and discussed much of the information needed to make decisions in either this meeting or in upcoming meetings. This is a meeting of the 7 trustees in a public setting rather than a public meeting. As such, public comment is included on the agenda at a specific time and requires us to listen rather than take action so as to abide by the Open Meetings Act. We are pleased that you have taken time this evening to join us. We are very proud of this school district, and we thank you for your interest in and support of our students. That takes us to recognitions. Dr. Ely.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Members of the board, we'll begin this board meeting as we do all of our regularly scheduled meetings with our pledges of allegiance to the American flag, the Texas flag, and a moment of silence. We've got 4 standout students who will be leading us in the pledges, and we'd like to invite their proud principals up here, Teresa Cott from Forest Ridge Elementary and Laura Richter from South Knoll Elementary, to introduce us to our pledge students this evening. Ladies.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So good evening. So we are happy to be here. We have 2 fabulous Falcons from Forest Ridge Elementary with us tonight. These 2 ladies are outstanding leaders at Forest Ridge. So we have Carly Pipes here. Carly is someone who really loves reading. That's her favorite subject. She's an avid reader, and she really enjoys taking that reading and writing about that. So one of her claims to fame is that she was George Washington in the Wax Museum. And so if you need to know anything about George Washington, this lady right here knows a lot about it. So she does performances in all kinds of places. So just on cue, she'll do that for you. And she also, in her spare time, loves to play softball. She's a third baseman and pretty great at that, and loves animals. And we also have Micah Field. She's also a 3rd grader at Forest Ridge. She is somebody who really enjoys language arts. English, she said, English. And she loves to write. She too was in the Wax Museum. She was Queen Elizabeth I. And that is when I learned she has a fabulous accent, and she's Hollywood bound, that's for sure. But she really enjoys acting and singing in her spare time. So if you'll notice, these 2 ladies are wearing their Ridge Recycle Crew shirt, because at Forest Ridge we do Genius Hour projects, and they had one already, but they came with a new project. They wanted to do service. And so they created the Forest Ridge recycling process at our school. So, and brought all kinds of containers, and we sort plastic. Now we have a lot more work to do there because of these 2 ladies here. And when they came in, they said, this is what we want to do, Ms. Cott. What we want to do is, really help children understand it's not up to adults to save our world. It's up to the children to help save our world. So you'll see them don their beautiful plastic blue gloves as they sort through some really interesting items. So, and what they're learning is what all we might be able to do with already used plastic. So they're here tonight to represent Forest Ridge. I'm very proud of both of them.
I need to readjust this a little. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you these 2 handsome redheaded fellows here next to me. Maddox Janik is a 4th grader at South Knoll, and Emmett Janik is a 3rd grader. I told them that I was going to have to introduce them and share something special about them tonight. And so I said, tell me your favorite thing you like about school. Maddox looked at me and said, oh, pretty much everything. I really can't tell. I just like it all. He couldn't even narrow it down. He likes it all. And Emmett was fast to tell me he likes reading and writing, and most especially about dragons. And I did check with his mother. That is legit. You just didn't make that up. You do like reading and writing about dragons, right? Yeah. And we're sitting here before the meeting, and Maddox looked at me and said, "You could have picked anybody to do this tonight, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, I could have picked anybody." I said, "But I picked you guys, and I'm going to tell you guys why I picked both of you, okay?" I knew that these two young men are bright and just sharp, and I could depend on them. But I also know on any given day, if they see something that needs to be done, they do it. They are a good friend to anybody, and they just work hard and just are a great example of what it means to be a super kid at South Knoll. So I'm pleased to have them here with me tonight. So here you go.
I pledge allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I pledge allegiance. Oh wait. I pledge allegiance to the honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Will you please join us for a moment of silence?
Thank you.
Hop up in here in the middle and we will take a picture with you guys.
All right, let mom, dad, come on in, parents. There we go. We got some more. Come on, Dad. We do have one more recognition this evening, and I'm glad that the Board of Trustees are standing because what we're going to do is we're going to start by having a board spelling bee. We'll see how you do, and we'll see how you fare compared to our honoree this evening. So by correctly spelling the word Ulitic, College Station Middle School 7th grader Suncalp Gautam advanced the annual National Scripps Spelling Bee. On March 23rd, Suncalp was runner-up at the Houston Public Media Spelling Bee and advanced the ESPN nationally televised event from the Gaylord National Resort and Convention Center in National Harbor, Maryland. On February 16th, he won the local contest, advancing to the regional round to represent Brazos, Burleson, Grimes, Leon, Madison, Robertson, and Washington counties. Preliminary rounds of the Scripps National Spelling Bee will begin May 27th, and onstage spelling will begin May 28th and continue into the finals on May 30th. We want to congratulate Suncalp on an already remarkable accomplishment and wish him the best of luck at the National Spelling Bee. Suncalp, would you please come forward? Right there. Congratulations. Dr. Weston wanted me to ask if you could use Ulitic in a sentence. I'm just kidding. You don't have to. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's a tremendous honor. We wish you the best of luck in Washington, and I know that you're going to make us proud. Congratulations. That ends our recognitions for this evening.
I guess everyone is settled. I'd like to direct your attention to the artwork on the back wall there. It's been provided by students from College Hills Elementary, Forest Ridge Elementary, South Knoll Elementary, A&M Consolidated Middle School, and College Station Middle School. Some of the work, well, actually all of it back there is quite amazing. So if you have a chance, be sure and check it out. That takes us to the consent agenda, which is items G, H3, J4, J5, J6 through 12. Does anyone want to remove any of the items from consent?
I would move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. That takes us to board reports. Does anyone have any reports or announcements for us?
Jeff, it's Amanda. I have a report whenever you're ready.
We're ready. Go ahead.
Okay. So I have two reports, one for the Education Foundation. We met on April 2nd, and this was my first meeting as a board representative. It was a very lively, engaging bunch. I thoroughly enjoyed the meeting and how truly engaged everyone who serves on that board really was during the meeting. It was exciting to hear some of the reports. So some of the highlights that I would love to report out to all of you is that the Education Foundation was the first charitable recipient of the newly formed 100 Women of BCS. So the Education Foundation did receive a $15,100 check that was underwritten by 151 members of this group. And it's exciting because, you know, it's a very large donation to get it once. And it will be earmarked for Chrissy's Closet and the Amy Anderson Literacy Legacy. Also, some things to note, too, that the Education Foundation will be honoring 64 CSISD outstanding seniors that were in their selected educators at the Hall of Fame banquet on April 30th. One thing also, too, that I thought was very interesting and wanted to share with all of you as the donor recognition wrap-up was they had it at the Benjamin Knox Gallery this year, and there was a lot of feedback that it was a success, and because it really helped connect donors, you know, with the teachers and administrators. And so I think we will build upon that for next year and continue that event. Also, I have to report on the Head Start Policy Council. We met on April 25th, and I will tell you, I continue to be impressed by this group, as they're, you know, the council is made up of parents, staff, and you know, community members, and there is a very engaged group that feels very passionate about, you know, our Birth to Head Start programs and early education, not just, you know, within the classroom that they provide, but outside of the classroom, and really connecting parents with resources, children with resources. One of the big items that we voted to approve, and I think we'll hear more about tonight, is to apply for an additional, we have the opportunity to apply for an additional health and safety grant valued at $220,000 for adding surface to 3 additional playgrounds, Head Start playgrounds here at our elementary schools, as well as playground equipment for College Hills. Another thing to note, too, I thought was very interesting is that Early Head Start, they decided as a group that as a parent group, that they wanted to have a spring fling, and 32 of their families, so over half of their families were able to attend. And really, it was a sports theme, and the kids were connected with, you know, a variety of sports that they could try out before, you know, kind of entering those years where sports really begin. They also had a family fun field day at Veterans Park on the 11th. And so that was before the meeting. So I don't know exactly how that ended up, but I'm sure that it was a success. So again, just wanted to share that with you. Great meetings for both of those committees. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else?
So I would say two quick things. Number one, DEIC met this last week. We're getting ready to hear a lot more about that here in just a few minutes. It was an exceptionally long meeting, and a lot of work was done at that meeting to give us what we were presented with tonight. I think it's an aggressive and a good plan, and one that everybody felt comfortable walking out of that meeting with on Wednesday. The other thing that I would say, following up on Amanda's comment about the Education Foundation, I am not a member of the 100 BCS Women's group. I know that's a shocker, but it's my understanding that that was a relatively competitive process for how that money was awarded, and that the Education Foundation and Chrissy's Closet ended up with that money largely because of the smart and very well put together presentation by Teresa Benden. So I think that's worth noting that by the time she was done, I understood it was going to be really hard for them not to give the money in that direction. So I through secondhand, but congratulations and thank you, Teresa, for everything you do.
Great, thank you. I'm sure you were number 101 though, right? Okay, carry on.
There are officially like 150 women in the 100 women. They're going to have to change the name.
Kind of like 50 men.
We have more than 50 men who cook also.
Yeah, that's true. So
Point of fact.
these titles don't mean a whole lot anymore, as it turns out.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Dr. Ely, Superintendent Report.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Harris. Yes, I would say that Teresa Benden is quite the closer. She closed the deal and did a great job. We all appreciate you and everything that you do. And I will, in a minute, when I talk about upcoming events, will highlight again some of the things that are great things that are going on with the Education Foundation. I would like to do just a brief legislative update. This is the time of the year which legislative updates can change moment to moment. The two biggest issues that the members, 181 members of the House and Senate, were united behind when they came to Austin in January were property tax reform and school finance funding reform. And both of those are moving through the process at this time. Committee Substitute House Bill 3 was passed out of the House a couple weeks ago by a vote of 148-1, and it is in the Senate right now waiting to be heard. We have found out that it will be heard in the Senate Education Committee next week. I fully anticipate that the Senate will substitute some of the language out of that bill and have their own substitute bill for that to come out of committee. And what we are waiting to see is what those changes the Senate will want to make to that existing legislation. House Bill 3 represents a tremendous investment in public schools and public school children by the Texas House. It's an additional $9 billion, $6.3 billion of additional funds for Texas school children, and $2.7 billion of property tax relief, which would be recognized or realized, through property tax compression, the actual lowering of property tax rates by 4 cents across the state. A lot of great work went into that bill. Recognize Speaker Bonin, Chairman Huberty, and the entire Public Education Committee in the House for their work on that. And we'll see what the Senate does with that. That will be the vehicle. Chairman Taylor from the Senate side has not going to be moving forward with his legislation, which was Senate Bill 4, and they'll be working on House Bill 3 for that. The other big thing that's been happening, been in the news a lot since Thursday, is property tax relief and revenue caps. That bill, the vehicle will be Senate Bill 2. And that passed out of committee and out of the House. There was a floor substitute for that bill, and that passed out 18-13 because there's 31 senators in the Senate. And that would seek to take the revenue caps for local municipalities and counties from a 2.5% cap to 3.5%. And it added back language for schools at 2.5%. That had been stripped out of the House version by the House Appropriations Committee in their version, House Bill 2. That is now in Senate Bill 2. That is, it should be passed tomorrow through a third reading and it should be heard in the House probably next week as well. So we will be tracking Senate Bill 2, which is property tax caps, and we'll be continuing to track House Bill 3 as it works its way through the Senate, which is school finance reform, and we'll see where we end up on that. There's a lot of overlap between the two bills, because even though House Bill 3 has information about school funding, it also has some property tax components to that as well. There is still plenty of time for this to get done by the end of the session. There's about 5.5 weeks left. Sine die, the last day of the regular session, is Memorial Day. And so there's still time for both of these things to get done. I'll remind everybody that House Bill 1, which is the budget bill, does also have $9 billion of additional spending for public schools and property tax relief, and that's moving its way through the system as well. So those are the two biggest things that we're watching. House Bill 1480 by Gary Van Dever out of New Boston has passed the entire House, and that would do some good things for assessment and accountability. It would allow some of the STAR exams and end of course tests that are not mandated by the federal government to not be given moving forward. It would do some other things as well, as far as accelerated instruction plans for students as well. So we're following that. We're following school safety legislation and other things as well. But that's kind of where we are. Really wanted to highlight the two big things, which are House Bill 3 and Senate Bill 2. Also would like to talk just briefly about House Joint Resolution 3, which came out about 2 weeks ago I guess about a little over a week and a half ago, when the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker talked about the joint resolution, which would add 1 penny to the state sales tax, moving it from 6.25% to 7.25%, and with the intent of using that money to help fund local schools so they could take that and provide even more property tax relief. Don't know where that's going to go, but that is certainly something that bears watching as we keep our eyes on Austin for the next 5.5 weeks. So that's my report on legislative agenda. Is there any questions anybody has on that or any of those things? Okay. I was furiously scribbling over here as I talk about upcoming events. When you get to April and May in College Station ISD, there are a lot of upcoming events. So I'll try to, I know I'll miss some of them, but I want to highlight some of those and hopefully in consecutive order here. So the first one would be Hall of Fame, which Mrs. Green talked about, which is going to be on April the 30th, and we'll recognize 64 outstanding CSISD seniors and their selected educators, and that will be at the Hilton. So that is on April the 30th. Board members, it is our intention at this point right now to call a special board meeting on Friday the 3rd, May the 3rd. We could do that in the morning. We could do that around lunch. We could do that around later on in the day. That is a Friday. We would be looking to make a recommendation at that time for the principal for Southwood Valley Elementary. We've not started the interview process for that, but we would like to make that a recommendation and hire early in the month, so we don't have to wait all the way till May the 21st. So the May regular board meeting is as late as it can possibly be for the third Tuesday. So that would be our goal, and quite possibly we could be making a recommendation for the Director of Early Education Services at that time. So if you could just be putting that on your calendar, we'll be getting back in touch with you. Don't know if it'd be morning or noon or when we might do that. So we have that as a recommendation. The next day, the 4th, is a big day. Lots of stuff happening. Relay for Life, which is one of the 3 main charities that College Station ISD as a school district supports. They will be walking from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. At the Expo Center, the Brazos County Expo Center. And so that's we'll have lots of students and faculty members there at Relay for Life. That's also the district art show that morning and early afternoon, which will be held at Cypress Grove Intermediate School. So that's what's going on the 4th. On May the 9th, we'll be having our employee awards at Grace Bible Church Southwood. Did I get that right? 9th? All right, I missed it last month. And so that we'll be honoring not only our Teachers of the Year, employees of auxiliary employees, paraprofessionals of the year, and those who are retiring after serving for a number of years in College Station ISD. So Grace Bible Church, Southwood for that. On the 16th, we'll have the Education Foundation Scholarship Night. That'll be at the Stella. And so we'll be awarding a number of scholarships for seniors from all three of our high schools as they take the next step into higher education. We're looking forward to that. And graduations for the two comprehensive high schools will be on Friday the 24th. At Reed Arena. There's a little bit of change in times. We're still keeping the 4 o'clock, College Station High School at 4 o'clock. A&M Consolidated will be moving from 7 to 7:30, so we can get an additional 30 minutes of transition time between the two schools. It can get a little hectic in the parking lot between the two schools as one leaves and one comes in. So 4 o'clock and 7:30. So those are some of the upcoming events that we have. Ms. Harris, that completes my report.
Great, thank you. You're going to send those around to us on transmittal again?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you. I think I got them all down, but I want to verify. Okay, that takes us to item F, hearing of citizens. Do we have any cards? We do have one, okay. If you'll bring your card, I guess you can just bring, yeah, to Carrie. While she's doing that, I will read our statement. During this time, public comments are welcome on non-agenda items. The board will listen, but the Open Meetings Act prevents us from responding to speakers. Please complete the note card and give it to the executive assistant, which you've done. The public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Each person has one opportunity at the microphone, regardless of minutes used. Unused minutes may not be accrued by another speaker. The executive assistant will time the comments and alert the president when time has expired. The board will not allow derogatory comments. And to start, please state your name and address so that kind of everyone knows who you are. Okay.
Hello, my name is Marcus Nimmix. I live at 16561 Calumet Trail. Last time I did this, I had a 6-minute speech, so I'm going to talk fast. First of all, school board, I just want to say I just finished the Leadership CSISD program, and what a great program. And as part of that, we got to spend time with some former school board members and really get a good understanding of exactly the sacrifice and the time and the commitment that you guys do. So I just want to personally thank you for your service to this community. So I have 2 kids that graduated from Consolidated, and I have 2 kids that currently are at CSHS, and they are both in band and choir. I was the president of the Band Boosters for 2 years there, and I'm going into my 2nd year as fundraising chair, so you may have guessed that I'm here to advocate for the fine arts. To be clear, CSISD has done a very good job supporting the fine arts, and the fine arts are worth supporting. I wish I had time to give you my 10-minute speech about how music education is great for kids because it builds language and coordination and memorization and work ethic and discipline and teamwork and self-confidence and better grades. In fact, fine arts kids tend to have about a 60-point higher verbal and 44-point higher math SAT score. So in summary, fine arts kids tend to correlate to more successful adults. Over the past several years, this district has faced growth challenges and state funding challenges. Fortunately, I learned in Leadership CSISD that we don't have to build any more schools for the next few years, and state funding is looking pretty good. From Dr. Ely's report just a few minutes ago. So tonight I have 2 requests on behalf of many, many other parents in this district of fine arts students. First of all, CSHS really needs a 3rd band director. Marching season for a band our side, we just need 3 directors on the field for that many kids. And during concert season, we only have 2 directors, but there's 3 bands plus sectionals, lessons, jazz ensembles, percussion ensembles. It's really just a numbers game, and so our 2 directors there really need some help. Second of all, I support the creation of a district-level fine arts director position. If we had not faced some of these challenges that I stated earlier, this probably would have already happened. College Station ISD is the only school district in our region without a district-level fine arts director. And just from Googling around, I can't even find another district of our state, of our size in Central Texas. So we've built all these schools. That means we have lots of kids coming up and lots of fine arts kids. We need a fine arts director to develop a comprehensive and cohesive plan horizontally across the district as far as and also vertically going down. So all the way from seniors in high school down to that first art or music class in elementary school. Band, choir, orchestra, dance, theater, art classes will all benefit from this. I know both of these requests have been put forward, but I just wanted to come before you live and in person and tell you on behalf of many, many parents in the district, there's a lot of support for this. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other cards? Anyone else want to speak? Okay, that takes us to item H1, consideration, discussion, possible action related to the 2019-20 District Improvement Plan. Dr. Ely.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Part of what the hallmark of what we do in public schools is improve. And we go through a very intensive continuous improvement process. And the underlying document that guides our work is the creation, the development, the monitoring of a district improvement plan. It's a one-year plan that takes place over a number of years. I mean, we talk about it in one-year increments, but many of these things that you're going to see on the plan before you this evening are things that we've been working on, making incremental progress on over the next few years, over the past, and will continue over the next few years. We'll have our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Penny Trammell, is going to take us through this and ask for your approval tonight, but I just would like to recognize her and her leadership in the reformatting and of this process in this document. This is truly an actionable document that we monitor quarterly throughout the year, and we spend our time as a district, DEIC, District-Wide Educational Improvement Council, looking at the data, looking at the work, seeing where we're doing well, seeing where we need additional resources and additional focus. And I would just like to, before she gets started, recognize her and the work that she's been doing in this process and bringing this for you tonight. Dr. Wesson did mention it was a lot of work the other night when we finalized and put this plan together, and it recognizes a lot of work on a lot of people's part, not just Dr. Trammell, but the many members and teachers especially of the DEIC and the parent and community representatives that have worked with us to develop this. I'm proud of this plan that we're bringing forward to you this evening, and I think it's going to really lead us in the process of continuing to improve our schools as we move throughout 2019, 2020, and beyond. So with that as a lead-in, I'd like to introduce Dr. Penny Trammell, our Chief Academic Officer, to present for your approval the 2019-2020 District Improvement Plan. Dr. Trammell.
Good evening.
Is it on? Is the green light on?
It's on now. Good evening, everyone. Just a reminder that our Texas Education Code 11.251 does say that the Board of Trustees ensures that a district improvement plan and campus improvement plans are written annually. They are developed, they're reviewed and revised to ensure student improvement, and especially in the area of academics. And in College Station, we do a great job with the whole child, as we had a parent just testified to the great job we do in the fine arts area. And certainly we address academics, athletics, extracurriculars in all areas. The District Education Improvement Council meets throughout the year. They are the body that recommends to the Board of Trustees, and we have worked really, really hard. We've listened to a lot of reports. We have had some late meetings, and we worked this past week to get the plan finished and approved in a draft form for you all to view via the transmittal and give comments on prior to tonight's meeting. I will say, I'll just echo kind of what Dr. Ely said. The committee this year truly took to heart our students and their academic achievement and improvement and equity for all, and truly gave input on this plan. I can truly say this plan was developed collaboratively by a group of teachers, community members. We have 2 board members on the committee, and the curriculum team, and just other departments in our district. So my grandma used to say, many hands makes light work. Those many hands did a lot of work. and we produced a great plan for our district, we feel. I would remind the board that there are 5 goals in the plan, and the first one deals in the area of personnel and recruiting and maintaining quality personnel in all areas. The second goal deals with a challenging, relevant curriculum that provides equity for all students, which means no matter who your teacher is or which campus you attend, you get an equal education at all campuses in College Station. The third goal deals with opportunities for every child to meet their full potential, no matter which campus they attend. Goal 4 deals with family engagement, and that's engagement at the district level and engagement at all of the campuses. And as you all know, the campuses do an excellent job of that, and we are doing a good job of that at the district level as well. But we can always grow. And then Goal 5 aligns with the board's goals as well in being good stewards of the district's resources. So we did add one objective, and that objective dealt in the area of technology proficiency. Our TEKS call for us, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, call for us to have proficiency in certain skills in dealing with technology. We feel that this is important as our students finish and go off to college or go off to workforce ready areas. And so we will be putting in some benchmarks to make sure that we educate our students and that they are proficient in the technology TEKS. We used to call it keyboarding or typing. And my kids do this because they did not have that. The state says we still need to teach that. And so there are several things that we need to teach all students. And so that's something that we did add to the plan. So hopefully you found the plan to be robust and, as Dr. Wesson said, fairly aggressive, and as Dr. Ely said, will be great for our students. We're pretty proud of it. So at this time, on behalf of the DEIC, I would like to ask the board to approve the district improvement plan as presented.
Great. Thank you. Anyone have comments, questions?
I have a comment.
I know you do.
Of course. There's lots of thought. I've just been on the committee for a couple of months, 3 months, I think?
I think it's about
And
3.
I was amazed at how much thought goes into this plan by everyone involved, and the sharing of ideas and suggestions, and then the reflection on those ideas and suggestions, and then how it all comes together in this document that you all get to see. And it is very aggressive is a great word. I do feel that it's very aggressive, but it's good. It's good aggressive, and it challenges us, as a district to do more for all of our students. So, unless there are any other comments, do you have any other comments?
I would just say this is, for those of you in the audience that have not seen this, when you pull it up and scroll through it, it's a hefty document, and there's a lot to go into it. And obviously, we approved the final goals this last board meeting, but I truly think if we can accomplish all these things, then we'll be again well on our way as a district, and I'm excited about it.
Well, I do have a comment, and I think it deals with kind of the heftiness of it, but also one of the things I really like is how it's broken down and that it's actually quite manageable. Once you look at the discrete area, it focuses in on just a handful of key things that we're going to try to do. And I think that's important because if we try to do too much, we end up doing nothing.
Right.
So that we've actually identified, and I suspect that's where a lot of the work came in figuring out what do you not include as much as what you do include. So thank you, and thank everyone else who participated in that process for doing that. It looks like a great document to me. Okay, now I'm done talking.
I move that we approve the district improvement plan as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. We have a slight delay in our transmission. All opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to item H2. Receive report related to School Health Advisory Council. Dr. Ely.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. In 1995, the Texas legislature passed Senate Bill 1, which was a landmark bill and made a lot of reforms, including DEICs and site-based decision-making that we just talked about with the passing of the district improvement plan. Another thing that came out of Senate Bill 1 was the creation of school health advisory councils. So we've had this in place now for more than 20 years, and the roles of SHACs have changed a little bit over the years, but they're primarily groups of parents and interested community members whose real focus is looking at how we can, we as a school district and how our children can be healthier. And this can take on a number of forms. It can, a lot of times we look at child nutrition, and we look at health and physical education, and we look at a number of other things as well. And so we have a great school health advisory committee in College Station ISD. We're blessed by many members of the community that are passionate about the health of our school children. And we've been blessed to have Mr. Buddy Reed be the leader from the administrative side. And we've had a great chair this year, Dr. Alicia Larkin, who is going to be here to present the annual report to the Board of Trustees. The SHACs do have to meet at least 4 times a year, and we more than exceed that in College Station ISD. And one of the things they must do also is give an annual report. So we're excited to hear from Dr. Larkin and the work of the SHAC this year and the recommendations that they will have for us. So with that, Dr. Larkin.
Thank you. Is this okay?
Is there a green light?
The green light is on? Yes, ma'am. We're good. Okay. All right. Thank you. Again, my name is Alicia Larkin. I've been chosen as this year's School Health Advisory Council chairperson. And again, I'm probably going to say some of the same things that Dr. Ely just said, but to review what the School Health Advisory Council, or SHAC, really is, it's an advisory group that is required by law for every school district to have. The purpose is to discuss topics related to health and wellness and serve in an advisory role to the district. To that end, we're a group that is made up of members of all parts of the community, the majority of which must be parents not employed by the school district. We have several physicians, counselors, coaches, nurses, many others that are dedicated to the health and wellness of our students in CSISD. We are required by law to meet 4 times per year, and this year we just had those 4 meetings. So I'm going to be reporting this evening just a little bit on the history of the SHAC, this year's relevant topics, and a little bit of the future plans for this committee. First, historically speaking, like Dr. Ely said, the SHAC has had a special interest in the nutrition and physical activity of our students for many years, and then more recently, but also for the last several years, we've had a strong focus on the mental health aspect of wellness for our students. Just to look back to last year's recommendations, the SHAC presented in April of 2018 during the board meeting. We made 3 recommendations at that time. First was to update the recess policy. Second was to update the health curriculum. And third was an update on the electronic device policy. The SHAC appreciates so much the work of the district and so many others on these policy updates. We were thankful to see the development of new recess guidelines that promote activity for the students and limit the amount of punishment or practice time that can occur during recess. We are thankful for the work of Dr. Beth McNeil and her students at Texas A&M who have been working so hard on developing a new health curriculum pretty much from scratch, using the TEKS, but also with a mind for our community and the needs for our particular students. We're happy to report that the first module, the one on mental health, has gone through all its approval stages, including curriculum department, several teachers, and the SHAC for review as well. Our understanding is that it will be incorporated in the 7th grade health curriculum in the coming year, so that's exciting. Dr. McNeil and her students are currently working on the next module, which is the personal health and wellness module. We hope to be reviewing that at the beginning of the next school year. Last, the SHAC would like to thank the administration for updating the electronic device policy. As a recap, last year we recommended placing restrictions on the use of personal electronic devices on by students on campus, just because of the emerging research that's being done indicating the use of electronic devices and social media is contributing to a decline in mental health, especially for students in adolescence and pre-adolescence. And I think the SHAC and the district were thinking along the same lines for some of the recommendations as plans. I think we're already in place for an increase in student and parent education and digital citizenship, and we've seen these in action already this year. The addition of password access to the district's wireless and the restrictions placed on students that have been written into the student handbook are much appreciated by the council as a whole. We'll probably be looking into the research as it's coming out. I mean, every month we get more and more data, and maybe have further recommendations on that in the future. So moving on to our focus for this school year, 2018-2019, we had several meetings with guest speakers and some really great discussions among the members of the committee. There were many topics covered. First, CSISD has a wellness plan that is generated by the SHAC and presented for approval every few years. Secondly, we had guest speakers that presented on athlete safety, especially at the middle school level. We also had a speaker from Unbound come and talk to us about human trafficking. And then in addition, the rising epidemic among young people of e-cigarettes was discussed as well. So after some consideration, it was decided that 2 of these topics would be presented as recommendations this year. First, like I mentioned, CSISD has a wellness plan that covers topics ranging from nutrition and physical activity to mental health, counseling resources, several other topics as well. The SHAC last updated this policy in 2017. This year we took another look at it, making several updates and clarifications with new laws and new policies. Linked here is a copy of the revised wellness plan for your review. Over the next several years, the SHAC will be more thoroughly updating parts of the wellness plan and will have a comprehensive update at the end of that cycle. The second focus area was brought up by parents and staff, and that was the safety and well-being of our student athletes, especially at the middle school level. We have several parents that are here actually on the SHAC of parents of athletes, and many of them have students even in high school. Some of them have had the unfortunate pleasure, I guess, of dealing very directly with the high school athletic training staff, and really most of them couldn't be more complimentary on how their students' injuries have been addressed at that level. What we began to look at, though, in light of some of the recent data coming out about head injuries and along with several parent concerns, was the need for some proactive measures to ensure the safety of our middle school student athletes. To that end, we had a presentation from several longtime athletic trainers who've had a great deal of experience in this area. We found that, of course, CSISD is in total compliance with all UIL rules for student athlete safety and has already taken some proactive measures, including covering the middle school home football games with athletic trainers that come in on an as-needed basis, and also the collection of baseline neurological status data on our high school athletes. During the discussions that took place, the SHAC felt like there were some areas that we could recommend a few more proactive steps for the district to take to ensure the safety of all our student athletes. So many of the concerns that were brought up were specific to head injuries, which makes sense given the seriousness of head injuries at this age. We felt like there was a lack of understanding about concussions in middle school aged youth. We heard reports of kids playing scared because they thought every hit was going to result in a concussion. They just didn't know what that really meant. But on the other hand, we have kids that are seeing double, having double vision, but going back out onto the field to play. Concussions are notoriously difficult to diagnose and treat, as we all know. You can see a vicious hit that does no harm, but a seemingly light hit can result in a concussion. So we have to rely on the kids to be self-aware and report their symptoms to an appropriate person. Following up on concussions and determining return to play is also incredibly difficult for all healthcare providers, but it's exceptionally difficult to determine when the athlete can return to play without a baseline. So for some background on baseline testing, our high school athletes prior to play, there's a 20-minute iPad test that is given to all our high school athletes prior to their participation in athletics. So this can then be used after an injury to objectively document when their neurological status has returned to their baseline, since it's different for everyone, of course. Putting this measure in place is really the only objective way to document return to play, and unfortunately we just don't have that data required for our middle school athletes. These tests, sometimes people say, you have to be in high school for it to be accurate, but the ones that we're using are actually ages 12 and up. So they can't get it done, unfortunately, with their yearly physical because most physicians' offices don't have the software. So that's just something that we have in our district. Also of concern were injuries that occur in practices and sports other than football and the management of those injuries. So in medicine, we deal with lots of data and studies, and I couldn't help but include just a few of them. Promise it's not going to be a medical school lecture, but just a few. First, this study was conducted in 2015-16 and found that concussion rates for middle school athletes actually exceeded those of high school athletes, highlighting the need for better student-athlete education and recognition of risks. There was a 20-year multi-sport evaluation of middle school injuries, which found that the risk of injury among middle school population was actually higher at practices than in the game setting. Again, highlighting the need for education at the level of the student athlete, as well as the coaches running the practices, as well as some level of medical evaluation being available at practices in addition to games. Third was another study that found injuries in middle school athletes were more likely to occur during practices than at games, and this one actually found that girls basketball, of all things, had the highest rate of injury. I have a basketball kid, and I believe it. Like, it's pretty scary out there sometimes. I know it's not football, but it's kind of scary. You can actually get a concussion in basketball too. So if I kind of lost anybody in the studies, sorry. Basically, the studies show that the middle school athletes have a similar rate of injury to high school athletes, and that many injuries happen in training and practices and not just in the game settings. So then we looked at what the system in place now to address middle school athlete needs is. The coaches all have the required training for head injuries, et cetera, and the football games are covered by trainers. But if a child has an injury, they have to see somebody for their injury at one of the comprehensive high schools. So this involves obviously the parent taking the child to and from the high school before or after school, possibly having to take off work to do so. For something like a concussion, which can involve daily follow-ups, this can clearly be a challenge for everyone involved. Currently, at the 3 different middle schools we have, it's being handled differently. Sometimes the school nurse is having to do the daily checks and things like that. And of course, we all know that the district has been growing by leaps and bounds to the point where we opened that 3rd middle school this year. The numbers of student athletes at the middle school level has been increasing, but we don't have an increase in the number of athletic trainers to help manage them. So the high school trainers are having to address the needs of their students at their school in addition to those who are coming in from the various middle schools. Another concern about the current system is the student athletes don't really recognize the trainers that are there for just the home football games. We've had instances even this year with when athletic trainers were available, kids didn't know who to talk to. So they may have told somebody on the sideline, like a volunteer coach or somebody they knew from school, what symptoms they were having, but it just never made it to the person who probably would have been the most appropriate to deal with the situation. And in addition, again, the baseline concussion testing is only done for high school athletes and not middle school athletes, as we discussed earlier. On top of that, we are talking about, we do have people there for our home football games, but there's no coverage at basketball, volleyball, cross country, track and field, all of those other events. We actually just had an instance not too long ago of a middle school kid that needed some help, and we had to get somebody from an offsite to come and help out for that. So after looking at all of this, the SHAC came together with 3 recommendations for the district in the area of ensuring health and wellness of our middle school student athletes. First, the SHAC recommends the hiring of athletic trainer staff to cover the 3 middle schools of the district, at least on a part-time basis, but worked out to cover all athletic events, including practices, athletic periods, and games. Again, because practices have just as high a rate of injury as the games. And this can provide on-site timely medical attention for the student athletes, follow up on injuries, and to provide education for the students really in what they should and should not be doing for their particular growth and development. Second, increased education for head injuries for the students. Early adolescence is not exactly well known for its wonderful judgment abilities, at least in my house. The more education they have about the signs and symptoms and what to look out for, what to report, and what can happen to them if they don't report symptoms would be really beneficial in this age group. If we could have that occur prior to the beginning of their season of play, if we had athletic trainers there, this would be perfect to handle that task, so that would also help the students and the parents and everybody know who to report injuries to. Third, given the seriousness and repercussions of returning to play too early, we feel like it would be wise to implement baseline testing for all athletes ages 12 and up. We understand that would be a big undertaking, but feel as though it would be probably the most prudent thing to do and the most proactive approach given the data available. Again, return to play is difficult at best, but having objective data helps everyone making decisions as well as documentation for UIL compliance. So to recap, our final recommendations to the district for the 2018-2019 school year are approval of the CSISD wellness plan and addressing the issue of middle school student athlete safety, by providing middle schools with athletic training staff, providing education on head injuries to students, and to extend the concussion baseline protocol to include middle school athletes ages 12 and up. So looking ahead to next year, SHAC would like to initiate more conversation with parents through PTO on topics related to health and wellness. We'll continue its work with providing feedback to the district on the health curriculum for 7th grade as it is produced by Dr. McNeil and her A&M students. And we will plan to further address the counseling and mental health section of the wellness plan, also continuing the research and discussion of further data available on personal electronic devices as they relate to mental health, and then any other areas of concern as they arise. Thank you for your time. Any questions? Anything? Comments?
Thank you very much. That was very comprehensive.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Any questions? Great. You answered all the questions before they were even asked.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr.
very
Larkin.
much for that, and for the work the committee does. It's great work, and I'm thankful that you all spend the time to dive deep into those issues because it is so important, the health and safety of our students. That takes us to item J1. Consider approval of purchase of student desktop computers and monitors for Riverbend Elementary School in the amount of $56,232 from Avanex per Department of Information Resources contract using 2015 bond funds. Dr. Ely.
Mr. President, members of the board, Riverbend is opening in August, and we've got a number of things to purchase for the opening of the school, and you'll see a number of those items here this evening. Item J1 is the purchase of student desktop computers in the amount of $56,232 from Avanex using DIR competitively bid contract funds, using 2015 bond funds. With any more information on that, Mr. Martindale is available should you have any questions related to this item.
Turn on the microphone. I'll be happy to fill in any particular questions. Then these three agenda items are getting our classrooms at Riverbend outfitted with technology for students. As Dr. Ely said, J1, that's for student desktop computers and monitors. $56,232 from Avanex, utilizing the DIR contract referenced in the agenda item.
Administration recommends approval.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to abstain from discussion and voting on this matter, but also J2 and J3. So.
Can I make a motion to do J1, J2, and J3, approve them as presented?
I think we need to handle them one at a time, please.
I make the motion that we approve J1 of the purchase of student desktop computers and monitors for Riverbend Elementary School in the amount of $56,232 from Avanex per Department of Information Resources. Contract DIR TSO 4159 using 2015 bond funds.
Well stated.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Say aye.
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 All opposed?
Aye.
She's against it.
Motion carries 6-0 with one abstention. Wait.
Oh, you abstain. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. Well, let me clarify. Amanda, you were voted in favor, yes?
That is correct. Aye. Yes.
Thank you. I will wait longer for our lag. Okay, that takes us to item J2. Consider approval of purchase classroom display systems for Riverbend Elementary School in the amount of $259,053.03 from Avanex per the Texas A&M University Multimedia contract using 2015 bond funds. Dr. Ely.
Mr. Harris, members of the board, we have interactive displays in nearly every instructional space in College Station ISD. So item J2 would be for the purchase of those interactive displays for the classroom in the amount of $259,053.03 from Avanex, and we would move approval.
I would move we approve J2 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 6-0 with one abstention. Item J3, consider approval of purchase of classroom audio enhancement systems for Riverbend Elementary School in the amount of $56,028 from Avanex per the Cooperative Purchasing Network contract using 2015 bond funds. Dr. Ely.
Mr. Harris, members of the board, the final technology purchase this evening for Riverbend is the Red Cats, or the audio enhancement that we have for Riverbend in the amount of $56,028 from Avanex using TCPN contract. We would recommend approval.
I make the motion we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 6-0 with one abstention. That takes us to L1, through which the board will meet in executive session to conduct a closed meeting to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property because the deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the district in negotiations with a third party. The executive session deliberations will be held pursuant to the deliberations regarding real property closed meeting exception to the Texas Open Meetings Act as set forth in section 551.0742 of the Texas Government Code. And with that, we will retire to executive session and we will return to open session to take any action. But I don't anticipate.
We do not
taking
anticipate any action.
So I wouldn't hang around. The only thing we'll come back and do is probably adjourn. So. And we're adjourned.